Kayla, and this is my daughter, Paisley Grace. Paisley was born on August 9th of last year, and she was born with a condition called bilateral clubfoot. I'm going to let Paisley go play so that I can tell you a little bit about her story. Clubfoot is a congenital birth defect. It affects about 1 in 1,000 babies. Out of those cases, about half of the cases involve both of the feet, and that's going to be called bilateral clubfoot. That's what my daughter has. In other cases, it's unilateral, and that's when only one foot is affected. So when I was 20 weeks pregnant, Gus and I went to go to our gender reveal ultrasound, and at the end of the ultrasound, the doctor stepped in and he asked us to walk back to his office and to have a seat. So I was really concerned. I knew something was up. And he explained to us that it appeared in the ultrasound that our daughter's feet were turned inwards, and I didn't really know what that meant, and he explained that it was a condition called bilateral clubfoot, and that it could either be positional or it could be true clubfoot, which is a deformity and would need to be corrected through castings and surgeries and further treatment until she's 4. And so they set us up with a more high-intensity ultrasound with the maternal fetal specialist. We went to that, and it was then that they confirmed that she did have bilateral clubfoot and that we would need extensive treatment. They referred us to Shriners Hospital for Children. I talked to different doctors at Shriners, and they actually gave us a tour of Shriners even before the baby was born, and they explained to us the entire series of treatment we were going to go through. The treatment's actually really, really neat, and I'm just going to explain it to you because it's something that I know in my lecture last year. I actually already knew that my baby had clubfoot in the lecture that you guys are sitting in now, but I didn't tell anyone. And in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, my baby's going to have that. And obviously, you know, there's not much in the book. It's a little tiny section, but for us, it's had a huge impact on our lives. As far as the treatment goes, there is a doctor, he's from Iowa, he's called Dr. Ponsetti, and he passed away since, but he developed a really neat method called the Ponsetti method. And that's how Paisley has been treated and is continued to be treated. Basically, with the Ponsetti method, it consists of a series of castings. So as soon as the baby's born, they really like to start the treatments immediately. The reason that they start casting right away is because the baby's bones are so malleable and manipulative, and they're easily manipulated without hurting the babies. And something really important to remember is that these babies don't have broken legs, they don't have broken bones. The entire problem is a deformity, and so the bones themselves aren't shaped properly. When they put these casts on the baby's legs, they are not breaking them, and the legs aren't broken. They're not fixing broken legs. All they're doing is using gentle massage and manipulation through the casts to mold the shape of the feet into how they need to be, which I think is fascinating. I've gotten to see our daughter progress from the feet that she was born with to the feet that she has now, and it's really incredible to see, all through plaster casts and a skilled doctor who was trained in a great method. So when Paisley was 5 days old, we brought her to Shriners Hospital for Children, and Dr. Gibson, who is a phenomenal doctor, and his cast tech, Stephanie, they put on Paisley's first plaster cast, and I actually have it so tiny, but this is her first plaster cast, and if you can see, they casted her foot straight down, and they put long leg casts on both of her legs. They were from the tips of her toes up to her thigh, so her little diaper was right here. That was not always fun, but they're very long casts, especially for a newborn. Paisley only weighed 5 pounds, 12 ounces. When she was born. So having a cast, and they're relatively heavy, they're plaster. So having these casts on a little baby was kind of sad, and a lot of people did ask questions, but we just got used to it. Every week we would bring her in and we would change her casts. So she had one plaster cast, and then the very next week she'd go in and they would alter it a little bit by either turning the foot more outward or trying to get the feet into the correct shape. So she had a series of casts, and every week we would change it. And then I started school, so I went back in school, and she still had to get her castings every week. So they gradually continued to change. This is her 3rd set of casts. And then her 4th one, they finally started bringing it out to look more like a normal foot. So according to the Ponsetti method of treatment, the babies usually go through 7 to 8 casts, different serial casts, where they change the cast every week. And after Paisley's 3rd set, Dr. Gibson looked at me with a huge smile on his face, and he said, Kayla, I think she'll be ready for her surgery after one more cast. So I was thrilled, and Gus was thrilled, because castings were just really hard on us. They were hard on Paisley. She was always really just exhausted and sore because they manipulate the feet. They took off the 3rd set. They put the 4th set on, and we knew that next week when we went in, instead of going in for a 5th cast, she would be having surgery. And the surgery for clubfoot is called a tenotomy. And because Paisley's case was bilateral, they would have to perform the surgery on both of her feet. And honestly, as a mom, this was very scary for me. What they do for a tenotomy is they actually cut the Achilles tendon in half. If they did that to you or I, we would be lame for life. We would never be able to walk again. But in a baby, the Achilles tendon grows back, which I think is incredible. And it's just neat even to see how God created our bodies that way. We brought her in that day, and she had her surgery, and they let my husband pick out the color of her next cast, because the cast after the surgery, their feet really need more time to heal. And so they put another cast on her legs for 3 full weeks, and they don't change them for 3 weeks. And so Gus picked out these colors, which they're kind of fun, but they did not match anything. So as a mom, that was a little interesting. But these were her last casts. They're very heavy. They're plaster, and then they have fiberglass on top. And let me tell you something. Our little girl was strong as can be. She's barely 6 pounds, and she's throwing these casts in the air. She's lifting her legs up. She did not let anything stop her. As you can tell, the way they manipulate the feet, this was her first cast, and it's angled. Her foot was, this is where her heel was, and her toes were down here. So, I mean, her foot was straight down. And for this one, her foot is basically in the same position that a normal baby's foot would be. So it's neat to see. Obviously, there were casts in between here, but from the beginning to end, they were able to mold her feet, which originally were completely inward this way. They were able to mold them normally. So it was really neat to watch this as a mom. And although it was hard, and there were long nights and sleepless nights, and the first time I ever held her with the casts was devastating for me. After Paisley's last set of casts, Paisley was placed into this little contraption. In the Clubfoot world, we just call this her boots and her bar, but technically these are actually called Markel boots, and this is called a Dobbs bar. And for the first 2 months, she had to wear this contraption for 23 hours a day. And I thought we were out of the woods when we were done with casting, but honestly, this was the hardest part for me. So basically, we would just keep these shoes on her all the time. She would just wear these shoes. We'd tie them up, lace them up, and they have to be as tight as can be. They keep her foot in a neutral position. And then after we had the shoes on, we would just snap the shoes into the Dobbs bar. And it allowed her to kick, but there's still a lot of resistance. So as a baby, she had to use a lot of her strength to even move her feet. And it doesn't allow her to move one without the other. So just like with her cast, Paisley was very strong, and she would just lift her entire thing up and put it back down. I mean, if she was throwing a fit, you heard her, because she would just slam this on the ground. So after being in it for 2 months for 23-hour wear, they slowly wean them down. The babies, they need to be in this because relapse is common until the age of 4. So it's very important that parents are compliant with this. In nursing school, we learn a lot about teaching families to be compliant with treatment. And with Clubfoot, that's something that is key as well, because if you're not compliant, your kids are going to relapse. This is something, even though it's hard, you really have to encourage moms. If you ever encounter a family with Clubfoot, you have to encourage moms to stick with it, even though it's hard. And then, I mean, you can get fun with it. When Paisley had casts, we would always put fun little leggings on her and dress her up, and we would put wrap on her casts. And a lot of times that would even just keep people from asking, oh, what happened to her legs? Or how did she break her legs? Which obviously they weren't broken. And so it was just a good way to kind of cover it up and just have fun with it. So for a while, for about 2 months, Paisley had to wear her boots and bar for 23 hours a day. And that was intense, and it was rough, but it was worth it, because eventually we got weaned down to just wearing her boots and bar at night, which is a huge praise. And it's been really great, because now she has free feet during the day. And then when it's time to go to bed at night, we just put her shoes on, attach her bar, and she's good to go. And a lot of times she'll fall asleep with her legs straight up in the air with her bar on, and she just rests it on her head. And she's comfortable like that, so whatever works. And she'll sleep through the night, so I'm happy about that. Paisley will stay in nighttime wear with her boots and bar until she's 4 years old. And that's just to help prevent relapse. And so they watch them very closely. She has doctor's appointments still every 2 months. So I look at Paisley's feet now, and her feet look great. I mean, to me, they look awesome. And I feel like a lot of the problems with relapse happens when parents look at their baby's feet and they say, oh, wow, their feet look great. We don't even need to wear the boots and bar at night. So as nurses, it's important to know that if these parents aren't being compliant with their kids' treatment, then they're actually doing more harm than good. Looking back at my baby, I would feel worse if, come 4 years old, she has to be put back in casts and she can't run and play with all of her friends. In reality, Clubfoot really doesn't have any lasting impact on the children unless they're not treated properly. It's not necessarily curable, but it is treatable. In the most severe cases, the babies can get their feet amputated or up to the mid-leg amputated, but that is very rare now with the Ponseti treatment. The Ponseti method is 100% effective, but a lot of doctors aren't very skilled or very well trained in it, and that's when the problem arises. As far as long-term effects of clubfoot, just a fun fact about clubfoot. Mia Hamm, she had a clubfoot. Christy Yamaguchi, she had a clubfoot. And they've just risen above it, and they don't let it slow them down. So that's my hope for Paisley, is that this is something that she will be able to look back and we can tell her all about it, and she'll know that God got us through it, and we trusted him all along the way, and it's been great to see her progress through everything. So it's been a cool journey to go through.